Bruchim ha'aboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Das Samach Beis Amud Aleph at the very top. The Torah says, "Umikdashi tira'u," you should fear my mikdash, my holy temple, the Beis HaMikdash. And therefore the Mishnah extends that to say that one should be careful not to behave bekalus rosh in the eastern shar, which is opposite the Kodesh Kadoshim. Our Gemara then discussed previously how a person has to be careful when he relieves himself not to expose himself opposite the Makom Mikdash. Says the Gemara, Tanya, bringing a brayso, Omer Rabbi Akiva, Pam achas nichnasti acha Rabbi Yoshua lebeis hakisei. One time I followed Rabbi Yoshua into the Beis Hakisei, Velomadati mimenu gimel devarim, and I learned from him three different things. Lomadati she'ein nifni mizrach umarav. I learned from him that you should not relieve oneself from the west or the east in that direction, because he was from Yehuda, and Yehuda was situated from the south of Yerushalayim, on both sides, the east and the west of Yerushalayim. And therefore, a person should be careful only to be nifne, north and south. Elo tzofim v'doron. V'lomadati she'ein nifroim me'umad ela miyushov. I also learned from him that a person should not expose himself, not while he is standing, only when he is first sitting down. And opposite, when a person gets up, he should only then make sure that he's not exposed when he gets up. And when he was finished, he only wiped himself with his right hand and not with his left hand. Omar le ben Azai, Ad kan he'azta panecha berabcha. Ben Azai turns to Rabbi Akiva and he says, until now, you had such a brazenness to follow your Rebbe into the Beis HaKisei. Omar le, Rabbi Akiva's response was, Torah hi, v'lilmoid ani tzorich. This is also Torah. Even the Beis HaKisei, there are halachos that a person has to know. And therefore, v'torah hi v'tzorich ani lilmoid. Tanya ben Azai Oimer. The Brisa says, Ben Azai says, Pam achas nichnasti acha Rabbi Akiva. Here Ben Azai follows Rabbi Akiva lebeis hakisei. The same Ben Azai who just told Rabbi Akiva that it's a brazenness to follow Rabbi Yeshua, he was mekabel from Rabbi Akiva that indeed this is shimush talmidei chachamim. And like we learned Daf Zayin Amud Aleph in the Gemara and Brachos, that Gadol Shimusha, greater is the Shimush of Talmidei Chachamim, Yoser Milimuda. And therefore he followed his Rebbe, in this case Rabbi Akiva, into the Beis HaKisei, his peer. V'lomadati mimenu gimel devorim. Lomadati she'ein nifnim mizrach umarav el tzofim v'dorom. I learned that a person should not defecate from the east or the west, rather from the north and the south. And a person should not expose himself when he stands up, only when he is sitting down. So the very three things that Rabbi Akiva learned from Rabbi Yoshua, and in fact he said that over to Ben Azai. Ben Azai wanted to then see for himself in order to learn the halachos firsthand. Omar lo Rabbi Yehuda, Ad kanhez tapanecha berabcha. Rabbi Yehuda now turns to Ben Azai and says, until now you were so brazen enough to do this and follow your Rebbe in the Beis HaKisei, Omar loi. So he responds the same way as Rabbi Akiva did. Torah hi v'lilmoid ani tzorich. Says the Gemara, another ma'isa about Gadol Shimusha Yoser Milimuda. Rav Kahana al Gana Tuse Purya de Rav. Rav Kahana, he went and he lied down underneath the bed of Rav. Shomei desach v'sochak v'osa tzrochav. He overheard Rav speaking to his wife, laughing together with her, and then fulfilling his marital obligations. Omalei, Rav Kahana said, Dami pume da'aba kideloi sharif tavshila. It appears like the mouth of Abba, referring to Rav, was hungry and never ate food before. In other words, he's expressing that Rav had so much energy and did the Maisa with such enthusiasm. Omar le Kahana, Hacha'at. Kahana, is this you here? Says Rav to his Talmud. Puk, get up, go out. The lav orach ara, it's not derech eretz for you to be here. Omar loy, Rav Kahana said back to Rav, Torah hi velilmoid ani tzorich. He said, this is Torah also. There are halachos now, even in this Maisa that I need to know, and therefore it's important that I was here. Now we go back to the three things that we learned before. We mentioned one of those as being a person should not clean himself with his right hand, rather with his left. That's because the Torah was given with the right. Kiviyachah, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's right hand, the fiery Torah, the Torah that was given from fire, that was from the right side. Because the hand of the righty is used to eat his food, and therefore it wouldn't be appropriate and clean to wipe with one's right hand. Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Omar Mibneshe kosher but tefillin, because a regular righty puts his tefillin on his left hand, and although the tefillin are on the left arm, but he ties them, he's kosher actively, the tefillin with his right hand. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Omar Mipnei Mare ba Taimei Torah. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says a different reason, because when a person is showing the one who is reading the Torah with trup, with the various cantillations of the Torah, so he often indicates with his hands how to then make the sounds, the various trup of the words that he's now pronouncing. So to do that, he would do that with his right hand, and therefore it would be inappropriate to wipe with his right hand. Says the Gemara Kitanoi, there's a machlokes Tanoim about this. Rabbi Eliezer Omer B'nei Oichel Ba, like the opinion we saw before, because he eats with his right hand. Rabbi Yeshua Omer B'nei Koisev Ba. Rabbi Yeshua adds over here a different reason, because he writes Stam, he writes Sefer Torah, Tefillin, and Mezuzos with his right hand. Rabbi Akiva Omer B'nei Shemare B'taimei Torah. And Rabbi Akiva adds the reason that we saw before, that because a person, he indicates with his right hand the signs for how to make the various cantillations, the trup, while reading the Torah. Omer Rav Tanchum bar Chaniloi, Kol hatzanua bebeis hakisei, nitzol mishloisha devarim. All that are careful to be tznius in the Beis HaKisei are saved from the following three things. Mina nechoshim, from snakes, umina akravim, from scorpions, umina mazikin, and from shadim. V'yesh oim af chalomoisav miyushavim alav. Not only is he safe from the dangers of the mazikin, but also those mazikin are not going to then cause him to be frightened with a terrible dream. Hahu Beis HaKisei dahava b'Teveria. There was a Beis HaKisei in the city of Teveria. Ki havu aili beitrei afilu b'yamama mitzaki. That when two would go up and enter the Beis HaKisei, although it was during the day, they would be damaged. Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Asi havu aili bei, chad v'chad lechudei v'lo mitzaki. Rabbi Am, Rabbi Asi, they entered this Beis HaKisei in Teveria individually, and they were not damaged. Amrei lohu rabbanon lo mastafisu. Are you not afraid to enter such a Beis HaKisei? Amrei lohu, their response was, Anon Kabbalah Gamrina. We have a tradition that we learned. Kabbalah, the Beis HaKisei tzniusa v'shtikusa. Our Kabbalah is that the behavior in the Beis HaKisei is tznius, is modesty, and silence, and shtika. Kabbalah di Yisurei shtikuso omiboy rachame. We also have a Kabbalah tradition that when a person is suffering, then he should be quiet. Be careful not to then raise any complaints, chas v'sholom. And also to then mevakesh rachamim and daven to HaKadosh Baruch Hu to relieve him of these Yisurim. Says the Gemara, Abai merab yolei ime imra lemeal behadi lebeis hakisei. Abaye's mother, or really his stepmother who raised him because he was a yasoim, would raise a imra, would raise a keves to enter the Beis HaKisei together with him, in order to then prevent mazikin from coming. Ula Rabbi Gadya asked the Gemara, why a sheep? Why not raise a gedi? After all, a gedi, a goat, makes more noise. Says the Gemara, because seir b'seir michlaf. Since there's a shade that is doime, that is similar to a seir, therefore it will switch itself with the goat, and whereby the person in this case, it would be Abaye who is coming in with this goat, so he would leave with the goat thinking that it's his goat, but indeed it would be a shade. Rava mekame dahaveresha mekarkasholei bas rav chizdo amguzo belakno. Rava, before he became the Rosh Yeshiva, so his wife, the daughter of Rav Chizda, which we learn on Daf Nun Vav Amud Aleph early on in the parak, that Rav Chizda, his daughter, she was the one who was married to Rava. So she would take walnuts and she would put them into a kli that was made out of copper, and she would make noise by shaking the kli with the walnuts inside while he was going to the bathroom. Basar de Molach, however, after he became Rosh Yeshiva and he was in more danger from mazikin, of the lekavta umancha leyoda areshe, then she made a window from where her home was, and she would put forth her hand through that window on top of his head while he was outside, and that would prevent mazikin from coming. Says the Gemara, Amar Ula, Acharei hagoder nifne miyad. Behind a wall, a person can be nifne immediately. He can defecate there immediately. In other words, he doesn't go further than that, as long as he has a wall that's going to be a partition. Ubabika, but in an open place, kozman shemis atesh vein chaver shomer, so long as his friend cannot hear him making. That's the shita of Ula. Again, if there's a wall, that's fine, no matter how close it is. That's a partition that will then make a situation of tznius and the protection of other people bothering him, no matter how close it is. But if it's an open place, then it has to be far enough where people cannot hear him. Isi bar Nason masni hoch. He learned the following: Acharei agoder kozman shemisatesh vein chaver shomer. He's more machmir, and he says that even if there's a geder, there's a partition, it has to be still further enough so a person cannot hear him. Ubabika, but if it's an open place, kozman she'ein chaver ro'eu, a person can't even see him. Ask the Gemara from the following brisa: Meisvei yoitzi mi pesach beis habad. It says over there that a person who is a shomer on the olive press, that the oil should not become contaminated by the workers of the olive press, who are amei haaretz, and they shouldn't touch the oil. So therefore it says, Yotzim mipezach beis habad, those who are shoimrim, are protecting, are watching the olive press, nifnin la'achrei agoder, they're able to then go to the bathroom behind a wall, vehein taharin, and they are going to then still maintain the purity of the oil. So you see from over here that they didn't have to go far, they can just be behind the goder, even if somebody else might hear them. Says the Gemara, b'taharos heikelu. That's because they were meikil, the Chacham were meikil in regard to the taharos, to enable them to maintain the taharos of the Beis Habad of the oil. Toshma asked the Gemara from the seif of this Mishnah, Kama yircheku v'yutaharin, how far do these shoymim have to distance themselves in order to then maintain the purity of this oil? That they're still able to then watch over, make sure that the Am Haaretz did not metame the oil. Kidei she'yira'eu, says the Mishnah, as far as somebody who they'll be able to see. If they don't see the Am Haaretz being metame, that's sufficient. So you see, that means that when they have to be nifne, they have to go to the bathroom, they are only at a distance where they can see the other person. So the Gemara is asking, so you see that's another kasha on Reb Isi Bar Nosson, who said if you're in an open place, then they can't be seen if a person is going to the bathroom. Says the Gemara, Shiny oichle taharois da akila burabon. And again, it's a kula in regards to taharois, so that a person can maintain the purity of the olive oil. Says the Gemara of Ashi, Omar mai kozman she'ein chaveiro raya de ka'omar isi bar Nosson. Another teretz he says, what does Rav Isi bar Nosson mean when he says, so long as a person doesn't see his friend in that open place when he's there, making in a bika. So he explains, kozman she'ein chaveiro royas peru oi. It doesn't mean that he can't see him at all. It means he can see him, but he cannot see him being exposed. Says the Gemara, Hahusapidna, the Nachis Kamei de Rav Nachman. There was a person who was a sapidna. Sapidna is somebody who eulogizes other people. He's a professional eulogizer. Omar, he said to Rav Nachman, Hai tzanua ba'orchoisov hava. This one was tzanua. He was a man who was a modest man. Omar Rav Nachman, At ailis bahade lebeis hakise v'yodat ki itzanua iloi. Did you enter the beis hakise with him in order to know that indeed he was somebody who was a tzanua? The Tanya, for it says in the Brisa, Ein karin tzanua el lemisha tzanua beis hakise. The definition of a person who's truly tzanua is how he behaves in the beis hakise. So how do you know that indeed he was tzanua if you didn't enter the beis hakise with him? Rav Nachman, my nafka lemine, asked the Gemara, what does it make a difference to Rav Nachman whether the eulogizer was inside the bathroom and really knew he was tzanua or not? Let him praise him for his tzanius. That's really what the Gemara is asking. Answers the Gemara, Mishum de Tanya, because it says in the following brisa, when a person is going to then give a hesped on the mace, on the nifter, so he has to be careful not to falsify and say things that are untrue. It's true he is able to exaggerate on those good points, on those milas of the nifter, but to say something that's completely untrue, that would be something that can't be done. Kishem shenifroim min hamesim, and just like the mesim are going to be punished as a result of false praises about him, because then they'll look at his sins, they'll scrutinize his sins as a result. Kach nifroim min hasaftonin. So too, the eulogizers will also be punished for giving false eulogies. Umin ha'oinin acharin. So too, those who are going to then give their amenin, they're going to give their support for those types of words that were really false, and show that indeed they support those words as if to be true. Says the Gemara, bringing a brisa, Ton Rabbanon, Ezehu tzanua. What is considered to be one who is tzanua, truly modest? Zeh nifna balayla b'makoim shenifna bayom. This is a person who went to the bathroom in the same place where he would go to the bathroom during the day. Ask the Gemara right away, Eini, is this true? Veha Omar Rav Yehuda Omar Rav Lo'olam yanhig odam es atzmoi shacharis ve'arvis. A person should always be accustomed to going to the bathroom early in the morning before dawn and at night. So a person shouldn't have to then distance himself, which means at night you don't have to go so far, whereas during the day you would have to go so far. So we see from here that it's not like we said before in the name of Rav, that a person should always accustom himself to going to the bathroom like the Brisa says, that a person who's sanua goes to the bathroom in the same place at night as he does during the day. Here we see, in the name of Rav, that indeed a person does not have to go so far at night as he does during the day. Vesu, and further, Rava biyamama hava ozil ad mil. Rava would go a distance of a meal during the day. Ubelelya omar lishame pnu li duchta berechoiva damato. But during at night, when people cannot see, he would tell his shamish to tell them about a place that is available, that is next to the Rechoiva Damato, not very far away. V'chein, and similarly, Amar Le, Rabbi Zera l'shameh, he would say his shamish. Chazi man di'ika acharei beis chavraya. Tell me if there's anybody behind the social hall, that I'm able to then go to the bathroom there. So we see again that at night, when people cannot see, then you don't have to go so far away as to be nifne. Says the Gemara, Lo tema b'makoim. Don't say the Brisa meant that in the same place that a person is nifna during the day, is nifna at night. Rather, it means ema kederech shenifna bayom. The same way that a person is nifna during the day, is he nifna at night. And therefore it's a way of tznius, that even though it's night and it's dark, nonetheless a person has to still be careful not to expose himself unnecessarily. Rav Ashi Omar afilu tema b'makom. He says you could even say that it is referring in the Brisa to makom. And that which it says that in the same place where a person is nifna during the day, he's nifna at night, means as follows. Lo nitzrucha ela lekeren zavis. That means if there is a corner, even though it's night and it's dark, nonetheless he should then make sure that he is nifna in that corner as opposed to an open place.